Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are doing our 23rd episode of this podcast, in which we will be discussing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We're also got some news stories to cover, a lot of stuff from Disney Plus Day, new trailer for Spider-Man, lots of just news stories to go over. And we're also going to be talking about Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I've been playing on the Switch, and some stuff coming up in the next week and a half or so. Let's kick things off with our news segment on Beat. On Beat. As I mentioned, On Beat is our news segment where we cover the latest news, trailers, everything like that. So, first up, and this is probably the most recent on the news stories here, is Spider-Man No Way Home dropped the trailer. It looks like they're still hiding some stuff.
To get it out right now, no, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield do not show up in this trailer. If they're in the movie at all, Sony and Marvel are keeping that very close to their vests.
There's a shot in the trailer where you see Lizard.
Yes.
And
you see pretty much like every villain.
And but he gets punched, but nobody's punching him.
Oh, interesting.
So fans, it's like this long shot, and he's like in midair, and he gets hit by something, but you don't see what hits him. So people are saying like, "Oh, this is like remember in Thor Ragnarok when they showed like you remember in Thor Ragnarok in the trailer they showed like a scene, and then later on we saw that same scene, but like Chris Hemsworth didn't have an eye, but like in the trailer he did.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
People are like comparing it to like that.
So they're saying like they edited the scene.
Yes, they edited out what they believe to be specifically Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Huh. That's interesting. But yeah, it was a really cool trailer. It pretty much confirmed all the big villains are going to be in this. They showed
Lizard, Sandman,
Green Goblin. This 100% confirmed Green Goblin. As if seeing a freaking Goblin pumpkin bomb in the first trailer wasn't confirmation enough.
Yeah, now we get like VO from Goblin, but we also get like straight up footage of him.
It looked like they're both versions of the Goblin, like Willem Dafoe's, and then you saw like James Franco's Goblin design with the goggles. So I don't know like what that's about.
There's actually 3 versions because there's one from the Amazing Spider-Man movies as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch those movies.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I know that like you remember the movie Chronicle?
So could that be Amazing Spider-Man Goblin then? I don't know.
Did you watch?
Yeah, I watched Chronicle.
Yeah, the main guy in Chronicle, the kid that's being bullied, main character, he plays the same role James Franco did, like the name's escaping me, besides Goblin.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see, okay. But there was definitely the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin.
Yes, definitely, including VO from him, so.
Yes.
I think it's interesting they put the twist on it that, like, it seems like Spider-Man's going to be going against Doctor Strange to help the villains, and not, like, to help them with villainous goals, but just the idea that, like, they shouldn't be fated to die kind of thing.
Yeah, because Doctor Strange, like, there's some VO from Doctor Strange where he points out, like, all these villains died fighting Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Tom Holland's Peter Parker just be like, whoa, what? Kind of like, oh, well, that's fucked up.
And then there's like a part where after Doctor Strange thinks he accepts it or something, he's like, I'm sorry, Peter. And then Peter's like, I'm sorry too. And he's like, what? No. And then he like steals something from Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So initially from the first trailer, I thought Doctor Strange was going to be like the first 5 minutes of the movie. Looks like he's going to be playing a larger part in the movie than I initially thought. But Doctor Strange like tells Peter and his friends to Scooby-Doo it.
Zendaya's like, I know a magical word too. It's please.
Yeah, it's please.
He's like, well, please Scooby-Doo it.
You know, who cast the spell that did this?
Yeah.
I love the part in the trailer too when Dr. Octopus sees like Peter's face and then he doesn't recognize him, because it would have been really lame if he was like, "Oh, I got you, Peter." And it's like, it's a different actor. I don't know, like, how you're supposed to recognize him. Like, I'm glad that they acknowledge that, he looks different from Tobey Maguire,
Did you notice the thing where it looked like his octopus arms seemed to like absorb like Peter's suit?
Yeah, I saw that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of interesting looking things in here. And then,
there's a lot to
pretty much, it's not confirmed, but it's pretty much the biggest known secret in Hollywood that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this movie. If they're like not, then it's almost like they're working to make people think they are if they're not, Yeah,
I'm like 98% sure they're in this.
Yeah. I mean, the actors have been on the set, seen around, walking around. Tobey Maguire was walking around with like a poster for the movie or something, like on the location. Pretty obvious. If they're not directly in this movie, then they literally brought them in to make people think they were.
Right.
Because there's just no other way. But yeah, looks cool. I'm so excited for this. I'm so down for Spider-Man.
Me too. It's my most hyped Marvel movie of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have Disney Plus Day. This happened like right after we finished our podcast, like the next day, I think.
Yeah, it was like, well, no, not last day. It was Friday.
Okay, so like 2 days after we did the podcast. I was still in the process of editing when this happened. I know, because I was going to come downstairs right when the Marvel special went on. And
yeah, you were messaging me like, I'll watch the Marvel special. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'll watch it later. I don't really care. But you were like messaging me about it like so much. It's like, oh, we got to talk about it. I'm like, okay, I'll sit down and watch this thing. And then like, I don't know, like I skipped half of it because the first half was just like recaps of like shows I already watched. But then I got the good stuff, and it was like 90% logos, but there was like some like actual teases in there too. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I was literally editing last week's podcast to the point where like I came downstairs like maybe 20 minutes after the thing went, and I was like, I don't want to get any spoilers. I just want to watch it. So anyways, Disney Plus Day, the actual stuff came out, not just the Marvel thing, but other news and stuff as well.
We got like a new full teaser for Hawkeye. It looked like a long scene from like probably the first episode.
It's like a one-er shot, the one where they're in the car, where it's like a single camera shot. Yeah. And it's moving around, showing like, this car chase that we'd seen in the bits of in the trailer, but they basically showed like almost the whole scene,
almost the whole scene, for there. Yeah, it looks fun. It looks like a lot of fun. It's got like a buddy cop like tone to it,
Mm-hmm. Jeremy Renner really being cool. Like the one that's like I'm 2 days from retirement.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Jeremy Renner's like, I'm 2 days from retirement. And like Haley Steinfeld, if that's like the correct pronunciation, she's like the wild card.
Yeah, she's Riggs.
Yeah, she's Riggs. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah.
They showed a Moonknight teaser. Moonknight looked great. You didn't see a lot. It looked dark. It looked violent.
Oscar Isaacs, man. It's a great pick.
Which I was surprised. It looked violent because I was surprised because like this is not a Netflix show being produced by, Isaac Perlmutter for Netflix. This is a Disney show being produced by Marvel Studios and Disney for a Disney streaming service. So it looked a lot darker than like I was expecting them to go on Disney Plus. But again, you didn't see much. Then they did She-Hulk teaser. That looks like a lot of fun.
This gave us very little. Like if you actually go through, like there's like direct references to like the Hulk like TV series from the 70s and some other stuff going on. But like they're so kind of blink and you miss it. Like
there's meta references. She-Hulk, the comic series, it's kind of like Deadpool where there's like a lot of meta references and third wall breaking.
Yeah.
And so it looks like that's going to be a part of the show too.
We saw a little tease of what she looks like as She-Hulk. We also saw Bruce Banner in Hulk form.
Yes.
In Professor Hulk form, yeah. So they're putting money into the budget if they're doing the Hulk shit,
Oh yeah, you got to. Otherwise it don't work. Yeah, the design for She-Hulk looks great. From like the glimpse they showed, looks fantastic to me. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. Secret Invasion, we didn't get a teaser, but they did show a new picture of Nick Fury from that show. Nick Fury doesn't have have his eye patch, and he has like a full-on like beard now.
Yeah, we also got a teaser for Miss Marvel. Ms. Marvel.
Yep, there's a Ms. Marvel teaser.
Which wasn't too much more than the teaser we got before. It's just very little. You get to see her in a costume, and that's about it.
In her initial costume.
Yeah.
That she makes when she first becomes Miss Marvel. Like, people are like, that costume looks so bad. And it's like, well, that's because it's her homemade costume that she makes when she first gets the powers.
Yeah.
That's not her final costume.
And then we got a few, like you said, just kind of logos and title cards. Echo, which was long rumored. Echo's going to be showing up in the Hawkeye series.
Yes.
But she's going to have her own series. On Echo, there's the big rumor on Echo.
Oh, there's a rumor. Okay.
Well, the rumor that's been going on for a while for Echo is that, like, there's a lot of the Defenders people are going to be showing up in Echo, that they're canonizing Netflix shows.
Okay, interesting.
Like Charlie Cox and
they're all going to be shown
Ritter.
up in the show.
What's her name?
Kristen Ritter.
Kristen Ritter, and that they'd be popping up in the Echo series.
That's interesting.
That was the rumor before Echo was announced.
Okay, but so Echo is confirmed to be a thing now, so you think that rumor holds merit?
It maybe, it maybe holds merit. You know, it's that came at the same time as the rumor that there was an Echo series. Okay. Some people think that holds some weight, but who knows? Yeah, Agatha. You know, they didn't go with Agatha all along. I'm a little surprised about that.
I don't know. I like this title better than Agatha all along, to be honest. That's just a little corny. Just like a callback. Just because people like the jingle doesn't mean we gotta constantly call back to it.
Agatha House of Harkness is the official title.
And it's a great title. The actress is fantastic. You know, I'm sure this is an opportunity to further flesh out that character.
Catherine Hahn, is fantastic in the role.
Catherine Hahn is fantastic. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Especially where they left off with her character in WandaVision, you know?
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they take that, what they do with it. Because in the comics, apparently, Agatha kind of crosses the line between hero and villain.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do with this. But, you know, it'll be fun to further explore this character and maybe get more depth out of this character than what they did in WandaVision. Because one of my biggest complaints of WandaVision was just the lack of depth Agatha had in that show, where she turned out she only wanted power and her motivations were like paper thin. So hopefully we get more of a chance to, you know, really add more depth to that character.
Get to know Agatha.
Yeah.
We also got the announcement of 3 animated Marvel series coming to Disney Plus. One of them was kind of backdoor piloted with What If.
Yeah.
One of them is...
That was definitely a backdoor pilot, especially the way that it ended, like on a huge cliffhanger.
Well, they're kind of
really looked like a to be continued.
They're kind of saying this might be a completely different thing now.
Huh, really? So it might not continue off of that?
It might just be kind of like how there's been multiple runs of zombies and Marvel zombies before in the comics. This might be completely different.
I'd say based on that episode, having this be like a complete reset, like a different thing, would not be a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the worst episode of What If, you know?
It was. And I don't know if I could take a whole series of that. I'm sorry. Just, get Robert Kirkman on this, and let's do it correctly.
There's another series that's actually going to be MCU tied in, apparently, which is Spider-Man Freshman Year. What's interesting about this is it's going to apparently be an origin story for our current MCU Peter Parker.
Oh, that's great. We get to watch Uncle Ben die for the 500th time.
I don't even know, because they never referenced Uncle Ben. So I don't know if there even is an Uncle Ben in this version of the Spider-Man.
There is an Uncle Ben in this version. Spider-Man doesn't work without Uncle Ben's death. Like, that's the central pillar to the character. And I'm positive you mentioned Uncle Ben.
I don't think they did. I don't know. But anyway,
Civil War, I'm positive they did.
Okay. Not only that, but it's also apparently going to be using an art style represented by the Silver Age Spider-Man.
Yes, I saw that. That looked really awesome. When I saw that, like, art style, I thought that was really great. Really excellent choice there.
Mm-hmm. The third animated series, though, is the one that, like, completely blew my mind.
That was the one that, like, got a lot of hype. They're going for the nostalgia play. They're going to, you loved this when you were a kid. We're bringing it back.
You're cynical about this. I think this is absolutely crazy. Like, to me, I don't even understand how every 90s kid didn't just have their minds completely
No, like, I love this. I love this. Don't get me wrong. I love this.
But this is the X-Men 97 was announced, which is a direct continuation of the X-Men animated series from the 90s, which just, my mind just went... just exploded.
Yeah, this was kind of out of nowhere. This is really cool. I loved that show when I was a kid. I don't know how it holds up to today or modern standards or like anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it survives the nostalgia. But I know like the original 97 X-Men show is what got me into X-Men, you know.
Same. I watched the X-Men animated series and then I started collecting X-Men comics.
Yeah, I started buying X-Men comics. I went and watched the movies when they came out. You know, when the first X-Men movie came out, I went and watched that. It's all because of this cartoon. It's funny too, because like around the same time this cartoon hit, also like the X-Men video game for Sega Genesis hit, and I spent a lot of time playing that.
Yeah.
Up until the point where you got to the computer and it asked you to reset the computer, and I couldn't figure out what the heck to do. So like I kind of stopped, so I never beat that game. And later on I read like they want you to like reset the game console. That's what they meant in that scene. Like press reset on your Genesis.
It was an early meta joke in a game.
Yes.
They've done that kind of stuff in like Eternal Darkness, Metal Gear Solid, but this is like a very early version of it.
Yeah, it was a very early version of a meta joke. Yeah. I just didn't get. But,
or like in, what was the Zelda game, Phantom Hourglass, where they had the part where you close the DS to solve a puzzle?
Yes.
Yeah. I love that kind of stuff, but this is like a very early version of that. Yeah. But yeah, X-Men 97.
I love it. I'm really interested in checking it out. You know,
I don't think it's coming until 2023 though, so it's a ways off.
I just wasn't fist pumping, you know, like I was just like, oh, that's neat.
To me, what made it's not even so much that like I know this is going to be great or something, because you don't know if it's going to be going to work.
Bring back Morph. Bring back Morph. Damn it!
But the thing about this that's so crazy to me is that like this is nothing I would have ever expected. Like you know, there'd already been rumors about Echo. Agatha was already pretty much a sure thing. A Spider-Man thing that's kind of MCU tied in. It's like that kind of makes sense.
You know why I think this is happening? I think this is happening because I think Marvel really wants to do something with X-Men, but they haven't yet figured out how they're going to integrate them into the MCU. So in the meantime, this is just something easy they can do.
I'm so glad they're just not doing a new regular X-Men series though.
This is just something they can easily do to have an X-Men product around while they try to figure that out.
Yeah, it's really cool though. Just I'm so psyched for that.
And it's kind of crazy to see like the 90s like X-Men cartoon logo and like with the Marvel Studios logo above it.
Yeah,
kind of crazy to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Then we got some other news for Disney Plus related stuff that's not Marvel. Spiderwick Chronicle series coming to Disney Plus. I've read a few of those books or like listened to.
I know nothing about.
I took a long road trip to Texas from California one time, and we were running out of audiobooks, so that was one of the books that we listened to along the way. And it's okay. It's like a decent family-oriented fantasy book, you know, but it could work as a series. There was a really cool. Did you watch the Willow cast video?
Yes, I did. It was hilarious.
That was hilarious. Like
Warwick Davis was.
I want a whole series of that.
Yeah,
like I want the Willow series, and then I want a series of like them making the Willow series in that style.
Well, I think if you want more Warwick Davis centered comedy, there is Life is Short.
I've seen that, but I love the idea of basically like a new season of Life is Short where they're making a Willow series.
Yeah, it looked good. You know, I'm not like the world's biggest Willow fan. I think I watched the movie once when I was a kid, and there was a Willow video game on the NES I never played.
You like that the MCU Flash Thompson's going to be in this one?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to watch it. Why not?
I remember my first time watching Willow in theaters, so it's like I'm excited for this.
I watched it on VHS.
I remember it was too loud. We were watching it. It was like in the Dollar Theater in our area.
Oh, really?
And we watched it there, and the audio was so loud it was like distorted, and it was like hard to watch. But I really wanted to watch it, but it was like really painful to watch because the audio was so loud, and because the theater had screwed up the audio. That's like I have a distinct memory of that. So that's like, you know,
no,
so I was like 4 or 5, something like that, you know.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, that's Willow, and then then the last big thing from the Disney Plus day was they had an Obi-Wan Kenobi artwork piece.
Yeah, it showed Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. I mean, looked like an Obi-Wan series. Looked like Star Wars.
Basically the least they could possibly show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much of an opinion. It looks like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That was Disney Plus day. There was something else that came out in the same day, and it's for Hulu, which is owned by Disney Plus.
Well, and this is Disney too, because this is coming out of Fox Studios, which is owned by Disney.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of part of Disney Plus day, but not officially. And that was that they announced a Predator prequel movie, Prey, that's coming in 2022, being directed by Dan Trachtenberg from 10 Cloverfield Lane. He also did an episode of Black Mirror. I believe it was the VR episode.
But I mean, this looks interesting. I don't know. It's been a long time since like a Predator product has been interesting. So I hope it's good. I mean, it sounds interesting from the premise, but
it's 300 years in the past, set in the Comanche Nation.
Could be cool. Premise sounds cool. So I'm hoping for the best here, but we'll have to see.
Our next piece of news, Phil Spencer of Xbox has basically confirmed that Elder Scrolls 6 and likely pretty much all future Bethesda games are going to be Xbox and PC exclusive. Initially, they seemed to be like when the acquisition happened, they seemed to be implying that they weren't going to be making them exclusive. Now it looks like they're all exclusive.
Oh, yeah, they are. This was obvious. They spent so much money on Bethesda.
Yeah.
In the whole Bethesda purchase was specifically to entice people to subscribe to Game Pass. That's what they want. People on PlayStations aren't going to just buy an Xbox and buy Game Pass if they could just get the game on their PlayStation. So that doesn't really help Microsoft, if the game's multi-platform. They want to be able to say, you want to play Elder Scrolls, you got to be on Xbox, or you can sign up for Game Pass because they got the cloud streaming now. So they can say, sign up to Game Pass and you can play it on your phone or you can play it on your PC. No problems.
They need to make a really cheap streaming console, I think. If they really want to put their focus on Game Pass, and they're going to hold back exclusivity because obviously Sony's not going to go, we'll allow Game Pass on PlayStation.
That's
obviously not going to happen. So they need to make like a really cheap streaming system, just like a streaming dongle and a controller, basically.
I agree.
That's like the next kind of like what Google does with Stadia,
Related news to this, they did launch cloud streaming on Xbox consoles today. So Xbox One S and One X.
It's so weird that this is
Series S and Series X you can now stream games from those starting today.
So weird that that's just like new now.
Right.
That wasn't from the very beginning.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's good news. And like I said, but they need to make like a cheap streaming only Xbox.
Yeah,
they really do.
I 100% agree. Because if they did that, if they just have like some cheap like internet dongle that had a controller, then people could just buy that, sign up for a Game Pass subscription and get all the games for like a very low fee of entry compared to buying a console. And I think that would just help them.
Yeah, definitely. As a way to kind of get people into Game Pass, which could then get them more into their other platforms,
Yeah. Game Pass is what Microsoft is betting on for like their future, for the future of Xbox. So this is the product now. It's not Xbox itself so much isn't the product. The product now is Game Pass. And so, they're going to have to do a lot to get that, because I think the earnings came out and I think the Game Pass subscriptions, they're not bad, the numbers, but they still fell below expectations for like this quarter.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a total loss leader business for them right now too. Like they're sinking money like that. If you have Xbox hardware, if you have anything that lets you play Game Pass, it's kind of like almost unwise not to have it. It's such a good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
For the amount of shit you get from it. It's just kind of ridiculous. And that isn't, I mean, they're losing on that. That's not, don't expect those rates to stay the same if they start seeing success, because they're losing money on that. But that's what they're anticipating the future of their business to be. So they need to do everything they can to make that accessible to as many people as possible. One of the ways to do that is to make a really cheap means of entry, a cheap and easy means of entry.
Related to that, Microsoft announced about 76 new backwards compatibility titles for their backwards compatibility program. They emphasize emphasized that this backwards compatibility update is going to be the last one they do because of technical and licensing reasons. So that was interesting. Some of the games that were added are Otogi 1 and 2 for the original Xbox. Those games were developed by From Software and published by Sega. So those are some niche Xbox games.
Are these all in Game Pass?
Yes. These are on Game Pass as well. Then there's also the Max Payne trilogy, Time Splitters 2, Time Splitters 3 are also added, which I know are fan favorite games.
Mm-hmm. They're kind of the spiritual successor to Perfect Dark.
Yes, yeah, because
a lot of the staff.
I believe a lot of the staff worked on those games. But some notable games didn't make the cut, and since it's the last update, we're never getting these games backwards compatible, like Jet Set Radio Future. Sorry, not happening now. Lollipop Chainsaw Suda 51, not happening. Unfortunately,
we could still see those games again, just not in that way.
Yeah, they're just not going to be backwards compatible. Maybe remasters or something down the road. Who knows?
Yeah. Our next story is kind of the downer of the stories this week. Not what's happening because it's stuff coming out that needs to come out, but just because it's an unfortunate story. And that's the Activision Blizzard boss, Bobby Kotick.
This shit.
Piece of human refuse.
Goddamn.
He is in deep trouble, deservedly so.
He deservedly so, because he's an asshole. This just makes me angry. The thing is, so it came out recently that Bobby Kotick knew what was going on in the company. That's not surprising.
Not only that, participated in what was going on. He participated,
yeah. He was involved in harassment himself. He even threatened to kill an assistant. It was really bad stuff, really damning stuff. And the infuriating thing about it is, despite this, the board is sticking by his side.
Yeah.
The board has released a statement basically saying, they fully back him as CEO. And I'm just like saying that.
Something tells me that's not going to stick. And this is why
I'm just like wondering how.
The reason I don't think this is going to stick is that there are already some media outlets now that are saying that they're not going to cover Activision Blizzard products anymore.
Right. They should
until he steps down. The staff has been doing walkouts, so they don't have their staff present for them. And if this starts spreading, it might get to the point where
they need to,
where platform holders stop supporting them, where they say we're not going to let you put new games on our platform.
Like I said, everybody needs to come together and put as much pressure on Activision as possible to get Bobby Kotick to resign, because he needs to resign. He needs to go. He cannot stay a CEO of that company or any company. He needs to go right now. And
I think we're only seeing the beginning of the pressure for that.
Yeah, that's just the bottom line. I'm sorry. I think IGN, the big sites, they need to stop covering Activision games until Bobby Kotick is gone. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Like I said, some of the smaller outlets are already stopped covering.
The bigger outlets, though, I'd be very surprised if IGN just said we're not going to.
I don't know. This seems like the kind of thing that starts to.
But then
it starts to roll. It's like an avalanche. Like the first couple grains of snow start falling. It's not that big a deal, and then it just keeps going. I think that's kind of where it's heading right now. I think there's so much outrage right now that it's going to start to become very uncomfortable for Activision Blizzard to stick by Bobby Kotick.
I hope so. I hope there are consequences. We're going to have to see what happens in the future.
And there's still multiple lawsuits going on too, criminal lawsuits too. So it's
it came out like Jen O'Neill, who was recently promoted as co-lead of Blizzard, and 2 weeks later she left. We found out why. She said basically she resigned because she didn't feel like, management was doing, anything satisfactory to address the issues. And she didn't feel like that was going to be a safe place for her. And she was also, being paid less than her co-lead. Just because she's a woman, they're paying her less. So, it was still, despite Bobby Kotick's claims that they're working hard to create an inclusive environment, they were still doing,
that's all PR bullshit.
They were still doing sexist shit like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they need significant change to break that culture they have, and that they have to do it from the top down. You can't keep a guy at the top that was involved in it.
No, you can't. No.
Yeah, I think this is going to keep building, and at a certain point, Blizzard's going to look at their bottom line and go, okay.
I don't. Right now, I'm at the point. I don't think it's just Bobby Kotick. I think the board members who are standing behind him, even after all this, they need to go to.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the board's going to turn on Bobby.
I think investors should realize that you don't need Bobby Kotick to make Call of Duty games. It's just like, you don't need him. Okay. Yeah. Call of Duty, that makes money by itself. Bobby Kotick is not some genius that's making that happen for Activision. He's just the one like signing the checks. He can go and you can still make Call of Duty and you can still make all the money. I just don't see the practical reason for keeping this guy around. He's toxic now.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason they're keeping him around is because he'll do scummy shit like lay off a bunch of employees and then take a raise for himself.
Right.
And that kind of stuff benefits the bottom line for a company when they're not under scrutiny. The problem is that now they're under scrutiny. So I don't think you're going to see any board members forced to resign, but I think the board is eventually going to see the detriment that Bobby Kotick poses to their bottom line, and then they're going to remove him if he doesn't leave himself. I just think everything seems to be steamrolling to that conclusion right now, and I think it's kind of unavoidable at a certain point. At a certain point, they're going to be looking at their money and going, okay, we're losing money, and that's all they really care about, and so they're not going to stick by him anymore, you know?
Yeah. Well, I hope this ends with Bobby Kotick, leaving. So then I'd say people should just stop supporting Activision, full stop, until Bobby Kotick is gone, because there's not going to be any positive change in that company as long as he's around, and that's just the bottom line.
Yep. To follow up such a, sad and upsetting story, let's go to a little bit of a happy puff piece. LeVar Burton was by far the fan favorite to take over for Jeopardy. Fans really desperately wanted him in that role. They
and I guess perfect. The producers of Jeopardy apparently don't agree.
Well, there was all sorts of weird politicking going on behind the scenes with that.
Yeah.
Some very unfortunate things. The guy that did end up taking over is now not going to be on it anymore. And
don't need to go into that again, but I was just saying that as shorthand to get to the point.
The good news here is that eOne, which is a production company, is going to be making a Trivial Pursuit game show, and they have hired LeVar Burton as their host for the show. There's no network yet for this, but eOne's a pretty big development company.
So it's cool.
This is going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet,
So a LeVar Burton trivia show could still happen, but I mean, again, it's being shopped around. Nobody's picked this up.
It's just announced that they started shopping it around.
You seem pretty bullish on its chances of happening.
Oh yeah, there's so much coverage about fans wanting LeVar Burton to host Jeopardy. That coverage is going to make this end up coming true. Whether it ends up being a show that sticks around for multiple seasons or just comes out for one,
I mean,
is bound, that's up for debate. But I think this is bound to happen. There's just too much buzz about LeVar Burton hosting a trivia show. So I think that's a given. Our next story is Squid Game is now officially #1 show at Netflix. 1.65 billion hours of viewing in the first 28 days. This beats out Bridgerton, which held the record before at 625 million hours. Stranger Things 3 was in 4th place with 582 million. The Witcher Season 1 at 5th place with 541 million. There's a few other series in there, but those are the ones that are kind of more relevant to us, except Bridgerton, but I brought that up because it was formerly #1.
Yeah, it got stomped by Squid Game. Squid Game is massive. It's the biggest hit in Netflix's history, easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other important thing to note here is that all of this information is coming from Netflix now launching a website called Top 10, the numeric 10, so 10, top10.netflix.com, where they're now going to post weekly updates about what shows are in the top place and how many hours of viewing they got. And I think they're limiting it to the first 28 days for all the shows that they're listing on there. This is the first time Netflix has put out numbers like this. People have wanted them to before. There have been Nielsen's put out numbers, but Nielsen numbers are, they can be way off. Those are estimates. Those are they pay a certain number of households and then monitor their activity and then ask them questions and then use that as a general to fill out. These are straight up hard numbers from Netflix. So this is like kind of a first, and it's interesting, and it's probably mostly just a flex for Netflix to show how many people are watching Netflix shows. But they're going to be doing this not just for the TV shows, but also for film. And they're dividing it up. So they're going to have basically 4 lists, which is they have a list of English shows, a list of non-English shows, a list of English movies, and a list of non-English movies. It's also worth knowing that Red Notice was just released recently, the movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, is the number 1 rated English movie, or just movie in general, on the whole list, with 148.7 million hours viewed, which is obviously going to be smaller than the series because it's only a 2-hour thing versus like a 10-hour series, you know? But yeah, that's Netflix details going to be coming out with that kind of stuff. We're going to be able to actually see if a show is successful now from Netflix. Before, it used to always be vague and you'd kind of guess. Now we're going to actually kind of get some numbers on that. So that's interesting. And then our last news story for the day, Party Down is going to be returning on Starz after 10 years or more. A lot of the original cast is returning. Adam Scott, Jane Lynch, Ken Marino, Martin Starr, Ryan Hansen, Megan Mullally. They're all returning in their roles. Lizzie Kaplan is not returning. She's just too busy with too many different projects. All of the original EPs are back. So Rob Thomas, John Enbaum, Paul Rudd, Dan Etheridge, they're all returning for this project in their roles as well, with John Enbaum, who was the showrunner before, also showrunning this again. But again, with Rob Thomas being, you know, closely involved as well. So Party Down, it's a really good show and it's coming back. We live in a very strange era where like shows that have been off the air for like a long time can just pop up again. This is something I never would have seen before, you know, never would have thought possible.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I've never watched it. I didn't have Starz back when that was airing, so like I never watched it personally. But I mean, you were telling me about it before the podcast. Sounds like a cool show. I have to see if I can find a way to see the previous episodes, at least to check it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely cool.
That's it for our On Beat section. Next up, we have On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap?
On Tap is our segment where we talk about what we've been watching or playing in the past week. We only have one topic this week, and that is Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yes.
I think you're going to really like this game. This has you written all over it.
It has me written all over it?
Yeah. It's basically like adult Pokemon.
That's what people keep calling it.
It's adult Pokemon with like survival horror elements.
Right.
And it's a really hard RPG. So yeah, I think this has you written all over it.
It's been adult Pokemon since the Famicom, but yeah.
yeah. That's what the series is. That's not just this one specific game in the series. I've played some of the spin-off series. Played
Persona,
a tiny bit of Persona, but I haven't really had.
Which is Persona apparently like eclipsed the main series in popularity now.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah,
much bigger numbers. Like Persona 5 did way bigger numbers than what the Shin Megami Tensei series has ever done. But I've played some. There's a lot of other spin-off series too. I played. I think Devil Survivor is the one that I played the most of. That was on 3DS and DS. But yeah, Shin Megami Tensei 5. Like I said, kind of like adult Pokemon. You can negotiate with you. You're in a world. You can fight some demons, and you can negotiate with them. And some of them you can beat, and they'll join you. Some you can negotiate with, and they'll join you. Once you have them in your party, you can level them up. You can do things to alter their skills and abilities, or you can just sacrifice them to create other demons. So you can like sacrifice like 2 demons to create a third demon, like a different demon, and then fuse some of their abilities and stats, like get some of their abilities and stats to make your new demon with. And then you can create a compendium of all of your demons, so you can resummon ones that you've lost through doing, fusions and stuff. That's kind of how the game works. It's very post-apocalyptic. You're like walking around in this kind of desert that's like basically the remains of Tokyo. Like you see a bunch of buildings from Tokyo, including like Tokyo Tower, and they're just in ruins, half buried in sand. And there's like demons everywhere. And there's some big battle between demons and angels. And you're going around trying to build up your army of demons and try to survive and, progress the story. I haven't beaten the game yet, so I can't say where everything's going in it. I'm kind of towards the end of the first area in the game, which has like a whole bunch of subsections. It's like a huge area. I'm like right towards the end of that. I'm about to move into the second area. And yeah, it's a fun game. It's a little frustrating disappointing because it is a very hard RPG. It like very much limits the amount of resources you have. Everything costs money. Like healing your MP is kind of a pain in the ass. It's not something that's really easy to do. So if you're using your abilities a lot, which you kind of have to do in this game, you can't just get by just using regular attacks. You kind of have to use abilities in order to secure extra turns and stuff to allow you to get through some of these fights. And yeah, you start running out of MP, and then MP restoring items are very scarce. Like I haven't used a single one, and I have 3 in my inventory that recover MP for a single target and only a moderate amount. And that's it. You can't buy them, at least where I'm at right now. You can't buy them anywhere. You can only find them. Haven't used a single one, and I only have 3. Or if you're at the save points in the game, and if you're there, then you can pay to recover both your HP and MP and stuff. And that's a way to recover your MP in this game. And that's mostly what I do. So you end up having to backtrack a lot to get back to your, last save point. So you beat like a boss or something, you want to get immediately back to a save point because there aren't too many of them, and save your abilities and stuff. You get something not too late in the game. I've already gotten it. Like I said, and I'm still in the first section of the game that lets you kind of instantly warp to the last save point you were at. Mm-hmm. If you beat a boss or something and you're like, okay, I don't want to go through that again, you can immediately warp back to the last save point you were at and save your game and everything. You can warp between different save points. So if you're at one save point, you can go to another one instantly. And then that's where you also end up doing your monster fusions. That's where the shop is in that, like everything's at that save point, basically. Everything you can do kind of outside of the regular combat and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of a fun RPG. It looks surprisingly better than I thought. Like from watching like videos and stuff, it doesn't look as good in the videos as it does when you're playing it, but it does suffer from some of the typical Switch graphic problems, including low resolution shimmering shadows. So if that kind of stuff bothers you, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of aliasing on wherever there's objects with like straight lines, which thankfully there's not too many of, but when you see those, there's a lot of aliasing. There's some frame rate dips here and there that I've encountered already, but it's an RPG, like frame rate dips aren't really they're not gonna hinder you in the way they would in a fighting game or a first person shooter, It's more just a matter of it's kind of annoying when they happen. But yeah.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's a major JRPG if you're into that, check that out. And if you like Pokemon, but you want something a little bit more mature, you want to trade in your cute little monsters for demons, Shin Megami Tensei is the way to go. And Shin Megami Tensei 5 is pretty good.
Well, there you go. There you have it.
And that is the end of our On Tap segment. And that brings us to On the Horizon. On the Horizons, where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next about week and a half. So we're going to dive right in right now. Death's Door was already available on Xbox. It's now coming to PS4, PS5, and Switch on Tuesday, November 23rd. 8-Bit Christmas is coming out on HBO Max on Wednesday, November 24th. I do not believe it's coming to theaters as well. That's the one that's like the 80s nostalgia Christmas movie with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, this is sort of like, this strikes me as like an updated, more modern take on a Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Where instead of like trying to get a BB gun, the kid's trying to get a Nintendo.
Yeah, it definitely has that kind of feel to it.
And it's done the same way. The kid wants a Nintendo for Christmas. The narrator is the kid as an adult talking about it like 30 so years later.
And a lot of the humor is the kind of political differences or the political correctness differences between when the narrator's speaking from and when the story's taking place. In A Christmas Story, a lot of it was like, I can't believe like people did this shit in the 50s kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
From like watching it in the 80s or early 90s or something. And in this case, it's kind of like, I can't believe some of the shit we did in the 80s, looking back on it from the 2020s, you know?
Right, yeah. I think it was in the 30s, actually, but I could be wrong.
Was it?
Yeah, so it's 1940, and it's the same thing, because I think the narrator's speaking from like about 30 or something years later.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, it comes off as an update. It looks cute. Well, it looks all right. I'll give it a watch.
I'm excited for it because when you watch like The Christmas Story and it's referencing these things in the past, like those don't have any meaning to me.
Right.
It's kind of interesting, but like this is like, oh yeah, because I was an 80s kid. So
there's a scene in a trailer of like the kid who has like the Nintendo and all the games and he has a power glove. And that's clearly a reference to the wizard, the kid with the power glove. So there's that. So there's like a lot of fun like references and stuff in there too. It looks like it's going to be a fun movie.
Yeah, I'm excited excited for this. This is of the upcoming Christmas movies, which nowadays there's like, 100 new Christmas movies every year.
Yes.
And of all the ones coming out this year,
this is
the one
most relevant to my interests.
Yeah.
Although, like, the story's a little fantastical because there wasn't a point where the NES was completely sold out. Like, especially not during the year like this is supposed to be, like 87 or 88, he says that trailer. Yeah, NESs are pretty easy to get, like, that year. So it's a little embellishment in there for the story's sake. But
it's hard to do like a thing and make it seem like it's this big global thing with the NES too, because the NES in America launched like only in like New York and stuff originally.
Well, that was in 85, yeah.
Yeah,
like
that was
86, it had the national rollout.
Yeah, that's why they have to set it in 87 instead of being like the hot toy when it first came out,
Right, yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense. So they have to stretch things just to make it work.
But I mean, they should like everybody sold out. Like there wasn't a point where everybody was sold out. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen.
So that is coming out on Wednesday, November 24th on HBO Max. Also on November 24th, but on Netflix, is Bruised, which is Halle Berry's directorial debut. She also stars in a movie in which she plays a female MMA fighter. So that's her directorial debut. It's interesting. And also on that same day, much more along the lines of what we'd like, Hawkeye, which we are going to be recovering. Debuts on Disney Plus.
Hawkeye,
yeah.
Yeah. This is obviously a riff on Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye. It looks really fun. We've already talked about this. There's no reason to go over this again. It looks really fun. We talked about the scene. Yeah, just watched it.
First 2 episodes are coming up on the first day on November 24th.
Oh, cool.
Also on that day, this is a pretty packed day for releases. Saved by the Bell Season 2. This is the remake Saved by the Bell on Peacock. Returns.
I haven't watched Season 1.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It takes a slightly like, it plays on how ridiculous the original series is. And so like Zach Morris is like, I think he's like governor of California or something, but he's still like Zach Morris. Like they don't try to make it like realistic. He's still like the same way he was. So like, it's kind of like they play on the idea on how stupid and ridiculous it is. And it's a bunch of the main characters are being bussed in from like inner city schools that were closed down. And we're kind of seeing it from their perspective of just how absolutely insane Bayside is. Like how it's like almost like it's some fantasy world,
Right. Yeah.
Which is a cool way to kind of play this kind of story, showing just how ridiculous that kind of a school, like how unrealistic it was. Also on Wednesday, November 24th, also on Netflix, is True Story, which is a movie with Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes. Or it's not a movie, it's a miniseries. Yeah, kind of like it's about a comedian and he gets kind of involved in some trouble with his older brother who's always kind of gets in trouble. And that's coming to Netflix also on November 24th. Then on November 24th as well, again, like I said, packed day, this is on Showtime and in theaters, The Humans, which is a Thanksgiving-themed horror movie, basically about a bunch of generations of this family getting together in this kind of apartment in the city for a Thanksgiving, and things just start going weird, apparently. It's got a pretty big cast, but it's kind of like a horror film with a Thanksgiving theme. And then on Thursday, November 25th, F is for Family returns for its 5th season on Netflix. I mentioned just recently that I'd started watching. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm still watching F is for Family. So this is more stuff for me. It's going to take me longer to get caught up. Then on that same day, on Thursday, November 25th, South Park post-COVID. This is the first of that big deal. I think it was like a 13 movie deal or something that they did with that South Park purchase with Paramount Plus. The first one of those, that first South Park movie is coming on November 25th, and it's called South Park post-COVID. Then Thursday, November 25th on Netflix as well. Also Thursday, Super Crooks comes to Netflix. This is the Millar World like anime series we've mentioned here before.
Yes. It was also featured on Netflix Day or whatever they called it.
Tadum or whatever.
Tadum, yeah.
Too dumb.
Too dumb.
And then lastly, we have the big theatrical releases for that week. On Friday, November 26th, we have 3 big theatrical release movies. Licorice Pizza, which is the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yes.
House of Gucci, which has a really big cast. It's going to be one of the big like Oscar contenders next year.
I don't really give a crap about Gucci.
Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, I don't care about that either.
All 3 of those come out on November 26th on that Friday. So if you're into that, then there you go.
There you go.
And that brings us to our final segment, full spoilers. This week, we're going to be discussing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I saw this a while ago. You finally got to watch this.
I got to watch this on Disney+. It's a fun movie. It was great. I had a great time watching it.
There's some really cool action sequences.
Yes,
that
really
bus
great
fight
sequences.
is amazing.
Bus fight is a great sequence. The sequence on the rafters, like China, that's another great sequence.
I particularly like the part in that rafter sequence where it's not on the rafters, but it's between him and Death Dealer, and they have like the neon lights in the background.
Yeah, that was really cool imagery. Yeah, that was really fun. A lot of great special effects. I loved the ending with like the demon and the dragon and stuff. That was really cool.
That's the old Dweller in Darkness.
Yeah, the Dweller in the Darkness.
Had a very different form apparently in the comics, more of like a eldritch demon type form or something, I think, in the comic books.
Oh, okay.
But in here, he was kind of like a Cthulhu dragon.
He looked like a Dark Souls boss. I was like,
your hands started going into position.
My hands start. I started thinking about dodge rolling. The main villain, Wenwu, he's Shang-Chi's father. He was the real leader of the Ten Rings that Trevor Slattery was pretending to be in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, played by the great Tony Leung.
He was a great villain. And
sympathetic villain.
Yeah, just because his motivation wasn't like totally like evil.
Yeah, he was manipulated.
He was manipulated. His original motivations were world domination and stuff, but they explain because he found the rings like over 1,000 years ago, and he's been alive for over 1,000 years. And as soon as he found the rings, he's set to world domination. They explain like how he's been involved in assassinations and causing wars and stuff with his organization. And then getting bored of dominating the human world, he finds out about Ta Lo, which is a hidden realm with all these magical creatures. That's where the dragon and stuff live. And he sets about like he's going to conquer Ta Lo. And then as soon as he enters, he encounters this woman, and unexpectedly they fall in love. And after they fall in love, they have two children, Shang-Chi and his sister,
Zhao Ling.
And he gives up any conception of world domination or Ta Lo domination, puts away the rings, and he just lives a normal life until his wife,
his past catches up with him.
Yeah, his past catches up with him, and, a gang he had wronged in the past come and kills her. And this sets him not back on world domination, but he starts hearing, like, her voice. And thinking
well,
like
he immediately
he can
starts wearing
her.
the rings constantly because now he's under the impression that if he hadn't left and if he had just kept the rings on, then she would have never died.
Right.
And so he kind of sees, like, his pacifism is kind of like a flaw in everything he did and his years of peace. And apparently wearing these rings makes you susceptible to voices coming apparently from the Dweller in Darkness, or maybe from other things as well. But
they explain it's the Dweller in the Darkness speaking as his wife, and kind of telling him that if he goes to Ta Lo, he could free her and bring her back,
Yeah. Instead of being dead, that Ta Lo is like holding her captive in a cave or something.
So he doesn't go back to Ta Lo for conquest. He goes back to Ta Lo because he thinks they're holding his wife captive and he needs to free her.
And that's where Shang-Chi and his sister and Shang-Chi's friend Katie, played by Awkwafina, all have to kind of come in to reach Ta Lo before his dad can so that they can stop him from, destroying the town and wreaking chaos. And what at that point they find out once they get there that he's just being manipulated by
this demonic force,
this Dweller in Darkness, that wants himself to be freed. It's this soul-sucking, eldritch, horror-looking dragon.
Yeah,
stuck really that's sealed cool behind a wall. Yeah,
and in the process, Shang-Chi gains control of the rings, and unfortunately, his father is killed by the demon,
saving him, which is like, he has a moment of redemption before his death.
He has a moment of redemption before his death, And Tony Leung did a fantastic job with that, like A+.
Yeah.
I think everybody did a great job, really.
Awkwafina is hilarious as always. Simu Liu was great as Shang-Chi.
really good performance, really good take. The movie was fun. The pacing was brisk. There weren't many opportunities for you to get bored.
Here's my question for you. I started warning you at a certain point. They started like ads for the movie started straight up showing a spoiler from the movie in the ads in the trailer.
What spoiler
and
was that?
That's why I'm curious as if you were able to get through it without it being spoiled. Was it just that Ben Kingsley was returning as the fake Mandarin?
I think I had that spoiled for me.
It's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's such like a funny twist when it happens.
It is a funny scene, when they go in there and like there's like this weird guy making like weird noises and he turns around, it's Ben Kingsley, and he has like this little creature in there that he's been like talking to like this whole time he's been locked up.
Yeah.
Morris, he calls it.
Yeah. The fake Mandarin, Trevor Slattery, is there. And
I love the part where like they're about to enter the forest and Trevor's telling about how he decided he wanted to be an actor. He tells like his whole story, and then Aquafina is like, "Oh, good for you! You've set a goal and you really went for it, even though it led you to cripple the United States. But whatever."
Well, it's funny when he was talking about what inspired him to be an actor, and he's talking about seeing Planet of the Apes, and then he's like, and I saw that, and it's like you just see how stupid his character is. He's like, I saw that, and I said, if even a monkey can act,
and I can act. And then he's like, they weren't. And he's like, really riding those horses? Yeah, I know that.
That was a really cool little twist in the movie, and I was sad that they were like straight up putting it in ads on TV and shit at a certain point.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Not many complaints about this movie. There's some cool cameos. Seeing Abomination again fighting Wong. It looks like Wong has like a relationship with the Abomination because he walks off with him after a fight, goes, you need to work on your punches.
Well, it's funny because we knew Wong and Abomination were in the movie from the trailer.
Yes, that was spoiled like the first trailer.
But like the way they kind of played it, it was almost like Wong was trapped in a situation, and you find out instead, no, he's just straight doing this for fun.
Yeah, he's just doing it for fun and money. Like he's doing it willingly.
Yeah. And he's friends with Abomination, apparently.
Yeah, and he's friends with Abomination, apparently. So it wasn't like some fight to the death, I guess.
So what did you think of the post-credits scene with Wong and Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner, who's no longer in Professor Hulk form, which was kind of surprising.
Which is interesting because like I'm wondering how that is, because like
I thought maybe that the tech they were using to communicate, like instead of technology, maybe it was some kind of an astral projection kind of thing because it was Wong.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Because because
it's interesting because like we saw the trailer for She-Hulk and he's in Professor Hulk form in that. So
well, what it made me think of is like, remember in Endgame when Bruce Banner encounters the Ancient One and the Ancient One knocks him out of his body?
Yes.
And he's like regular Bruce Banner in his spiritual form, like out of the Hulk body, So he's like communicating to her like in his like regular spiritual form instead of like the giant Hulk form or whatever.
I mean, so
I thought maybe that's it. Like maybe it's some kind of an astral projection communication.
That scene is like literally like welcome to the Avengers, kid.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like they do like a tease where they point out like the rings are sending some signal. The rings are calling home apparently, and they don't know where that is or what that is.
Yeah, Captain Marvel doesn't recognize it as any alien tech. Bruce Banner can't place it as any kind of technology from Earth, and Wong can't place it as any magical technology or magical, artifacts that they have on record.
Yes.
So it's completely an unknown thing, an unknown quantity, and they need to figure that out. And
they say like very specifically, like they became aware of it because like it sent up a signal or something like the first time Shang-Chi used them. So like, well, when you activate the rings, we found out about it. But like Wenwu had been walking around for like 1,000 years using these rings and they never did anything like before. I don't know. To be fair, like for over 1,000 years, there weren't like any people who could like read any signals from those anyway. But
I have to imagine it has something to do with why Wenwu had the rings in the first place.
Yeah.
That, like maybe these were given to him by somebody. And then his death and the rings being passed on to Shang-Chi triggered an alert,
Oh, yeah, might be, yeah. Because we don't know where Wenwu got the rings. There were theories like they came from space or he found them in a cave, like it says at the beginning, but it doesn't like definitively like say, how he came into possession of them in the first place.
I think some entity offered them to him, and when he died and the rings passed on to Shang-Chi, it was like something's not right here, and it started sending a distress signal out,
Yeah, maybe that's a good theory, actually. Yeah.
So, but it's just, what is that? Who does that go to? Where is that signal to,
Yeah, so that's opening the door for more stories.
Yeah, but I love the way that post-credit scene ended, because after they get through that whole scene of like, oh, the welcome to the Avengers kids scene, they're like, you should probably get home, go get a good night's sleep, because your lives are going to be very unnormal for a while now. And they're like, we could, or...
Yeah, they start karaoke.
With Wong, which is made it great.
And then there's a post-credit scene where we find out that his sister Xiaoling takes over as the new head of the Ten Rings. So 10 Rings aren't going anywhere. It literally says, it doesn't say, interestingly enough, it doesn't say Shang-Chi will return. It says the 10 Rings will return.
Yeah.
Which is interesting phrasing, because that suggests that maybe there will be like a 10 Rings movie without Shang-Chi, or I don't know.
That post-credit scene felt very much like a Marvel Netflix show kind of thing to me.
Right, yeah.
Like, I kind of wasn't that into it. I'm like, this feels like the tease before the Defenders show, Like, oh, the hand's coming back, kind of like that kind of thing. It was kind of like, oh, didn't really do much for me. But the first post-credit scene before, I liked a lot more.
They say, she's taken over as their father. So it looks like they're setting her up to be like sort of an anti-hero instead of just like a straight up heroic person like Shang-Chi is.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell through this movie she has a chip on her shoulder.
Yeah, she does, yeah. I mean, a perfectly deserved chip on her shoulder, like all the men in her life let her down, so.
Yeah, so that was Shang-Chi. So any other, what are your kind of general impressions of it?
My general impressions was it was a super fun movie. I had a lot more fun with this movie than I did with Black Widow. I thought Black Widow was kind of boring, but yeah, I had a lot more fun with this. This is the Marvel that I love. This is the Marvel that gets me excited, so it's great. Another thing too, it didn't feel like so derivative of the Marvel formula either, even though it kind of is. It pretty much is, but it didn't feel like that, which is good.
It had that kind of a little bit of a wushu element to it, so it kind of changed it up a little.
Solid movie. Yeah,
I also think it's kind of interesting that this one, at least with its origin, where Shang-Chi lives, besides when he's in the East and stuff, is in San Francisco. So they're kind of playing on this idea of Avengers are kind of in two locations, You have your group that's in New York, and then you have your group that's in San Francisco.
Start doing that. You can't have everybody be in New York City. That's silly.
But it's cool because they already did it with Ant-Man being in San Francisco. And so kind of having this idea of this bi-coastal Avengers thing is kind of interesting.
So you're saying they're setting up West Coast Avengers is what you're saying.
No, I don't. I think the way to do Avengers is to make it these global threats, in which case it doesn't matter where it's from. But I do like the idea that not everybody's in New York, that you also have these kind of hubs of activity. So it's not just this person's in Idaho and this person's in Vancouver and this person's in, Greenland. Instead, it's no, they're all kind of this.
Well, Captain Marvel's
group,
in space 90% of the time.
Yeah, but it's all these people are in New York and these people are in San Francisco, and it kind of feels like there's hubs of activity, And I kind of like that. I like that way of thinking about it.
Yeah, same.
We're gonna have a London hub probably now because of some of the new cast things that we know about that are going on, like Black Knight, Captain Britain, those rumors and stuff, all that kinds of. You're gonna have a London hub now too, so that's exciting to look forward to. So that's it. Next week we're going to be talking about Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2. It's almost here. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be the last Marvel TV show of the year.
Yep, it's gonna be the last Marvel TV show for a while because a lot of the stuff was delayed for next year.
Yeah, we're not. I don't think we're getting the next one until middle next year, I think.
Yeah, I think early summer or know. So feel free to leave us any comments, good, bad, or indifferent. You can check us out. I am at Tyson Gifford on Twitter. Will is at Voxel Hero. Check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, our Twitter, any other way you can contact us or reach us or follow us. Just check that out at your own will. Subscribe to our podcast if you want to get it sent to you constantly on any podcast client like iTunes, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, whatever kind of podcast service you use, it'll be there. So thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Little Screen. Visit our website at thetittlescreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.